keep coming back to the ice machine. Out of everything that happened that night, it's the ice machine I still think about at 2 a.m. sometimes, lying in bed 3 years later in a different state, a different life. That stupid, humming ice machine. My name's Danielle. Back in the summer of 2023, I was 26, working as a pharmacy tech in Fresno, and I'd just gone through a breakup that left me with a lot of vacation days saved up and nobody to spend them with. So I did the thing you're not supposed to do when you're a single woman with a Honda Civic and too much free time. I decided to drive up 395 by myself. No real plan, just wanting to see the Eastern Sierra and clear my head. Bishop, California, seemed like a good stopping point. It's a small town, maybe 3,800 people, sitting in the Owens Valley with the White Mountains on one side and the Sierra Nevada on the other. Gas station, door, a bunch of climbing shops because people come through there for Bishop's famous bouldering. Normal place. The kind of place you'd never think twice about. I got in around 9:40 p.m. after a full day of driving, and I was exhausted in that specific way where your eyes feel sandy and the white lines on the highway start to blur together. I didn't want to keep going to Mammoth like I'd planned, so I pulled off at the first motel I saw on Main Street, Route 6, technically, since that's what runs through town. A single-story place with a faded blue sign, the kind with those plastic push-in letters, half of them missing. I'm not going to say the actual name because I genuinely don't want anyone else staying there, and also because I looked it up a year later and the website was gone, like it had closed down or rebranded. The guy at the front desk was maybe 60, thin, wearing a flannel even though it was August and still 80-something degrees out. He didn't say much. Took my card, gave me a room key, an actual metal key, not a card, attached to a diamond-shaped plastic tag with 14 written on it in Sharpie. He told me checkout was 11 and that the ice machine was by the office if I needed it. I remember that specifically because it was such a random thing to mention unprompted. The parking lot had maybe 5 other cars in it, a minivan with Nevada plates, a pickup truck that looked like it hadn't moved in a while, dust on the windshield, and one sedan, dark-colored, parked oddly, not in a spot, but angled near the sidewalk in front of room 11, like whoever parked it did it in a hurry. The room itself was big but clean enough. Floral bedspread, the kind of scratchy motel comforter you learn not to trust. A boxy TV bolted to the dresser. I remember turning it on out of habit more than interest and getting static on most channels, except one local news station, which was doing a segment on water rights in the Owens Valley, which is a whole controversial thing out there if you know anything about LA's water history. I had it on low volume while I unpacked my bag, more for the noise than anything. I texted my friend Priya around 10:15. I still have the message, actually. I never deleted the thread. Made it to Bishop, staying at some sketchy Motel Lowell, tiny town, but kinda pretty. She sent back a laughing emoji and told me to lock my door, which, obviously, I did. Deadbolt and the little chain lock, too. I want to be clear that for the first hour or two, nothing was wrong. I showered, I watched some of the water rights segment, I ate a granola bar because I hadn't had dinner, normal stuff. It's important to me that people understand how normal it was because that's what made what happened after feel so wrong. There was no buildup in the way movies do it. It was just an ordinary night, and then it wasn't. Around 11:40 p.m., I heard someone at the ice machine. I could hear it through the wall that faced the walkway, the machine's compressor, then the rattle of ice dropping, then footsteps. Nothing weird about that. People get ice. But then I heard the footsteps stop right outside my door. Not pass by. Stop. I froze on the bed, muted the TV. I could hear breathing. I know that sounds like something you say for effect in a story like this, but I mean it literally. I could hear someone breathing on the other side of a door that was maybe 2 inches of hollow core wood. Not heavy breathing, not creepy movie breathing, just normal breathing, the kind you do standing still, which honestly made it worse. It didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like someone standing there, waiting, patient. I didn't move. I remember staring at the deadbolt, doing that thing where you convince yourself if you don't make a sound, whatever's out there can't tell you're awake. After maybe 30 seconds, which felt a lot longer, I heard the footsteps continue, unhurried, and fade off toward the other end of the building. I told myself it was another guest. Someone got turned around, realized they were at the wrong room, kept walking. That's a completely reasonable explanation, and for about 20 minutes I believed it. Then at 12:04 a.m., according to my phone, which I checked obsessively for the rest of the night, someone knocked. Not loud. 2 knuckles, 3 knocks, almost polite. I didn't answer. It was midnight. Housekeeping doesn't deliver towels at midnight. I know that now with total clarity, but in the moment, half asleep, tired, and alone in an unfamiliar place, my brain tried to make it make sense. Maybe it's a weird small motel thing. Maybe the front desk guy sent someone. I almost got up. I actually put my hand on the chain lock before something, I don't know what, just a gut feeling, the kind you get and later wish you'd trusted faster, made me stop. "I'm okay, thank you," I said through the door, trying to sound awake and unbothered, which I don't think I pulled off. There was a pause. Then, "You sure?" Still that same low, almost gentle tone. That's the detail that gets me even now. It wasn't aggressive, it was calm, and calm was so much worse than yelling would have been. "I'm sure, thanks," I said again, and I heard him, I'm assuming him based on the voice, just stand there a moment longer before walking off. I did not sleep after that. I sat up against the headboard with the lamp on, my phone in my hand, Googling things like, is there a Mannheim safety checklist for staying at a motel alone at 12:20 a.m.? Like that would help me right then. I looked up the motel's name, plus the town, plus reviews, and found exactly one review from 8 months earlier, 3 stars, that said the AC was loud, but otherwise fine. Nothing alarming. That absence of information somehow scared me more than if I'd found something bad, because it meant I had nothing to compare this to. I didn't know if this was normal, creepy motel behavior or something else. At around 1:15 a.m., I heard a car start up outside. Not peel out, just start, idle for maybe a minute, then pull away slowly. I looked through the gap in the curtains, just a sliver, and saw the dark sedan that had been parked crookedly by room 11 was gone. I remember feeling a flood of relief. Whoever it was, they left. I told myself the knock and the guy at the door were unrelated to the sedan, that I was connecting dots that didn't connect, and for about 40 minutes I actually started to relax. Then at 2:13 a.m., and I know this time because I was staring at my phone when it happened, the same sedan pulled back into the lot. Same crooked parking spot in front of 11. I watched through the curtain gap as a man got out. Average height, wearing a dark jacket despite the heat, and he didn't go to room 11. He walked, slow, unhurried, in the direction of my room. I moved back from the window so fast I knocked my phone charger cord loose from the wall. I don't remember deciding to grab my pepper spray from my bag. I carry it, mostly out of habit, never used it. But I remember having it in my hand, sitting against the headboard with my knees pulled up, watching the door. Nothing happened for a while. No knock this time. Just at 2:19 a.m., the doorknob turning. Slowly, just a quarter turn, testing it, then stopping when it hit the deadbolt. I didn't breathe. I have never in my life been more aware of my own heartbeat. Then the same voice, right up against the door this time. "You still up?" I didn't answer. I was too scared that answering would somehow escalate things, that silence was safer, even though logically I knew he already knew I was awake because he could see the light under the door or through the curtain gap or wherever he was looking from. He tried the knob one more time, gentle, like testing a fence for an electric current. Then he said something that I've turned over in my head more times than anything else that night. He said, "Sorry, wrong room, I think." And then he laughed. Just a short, quiet huff of a laugh. Not a normal, oops, my bad laugh. Something quieter and more private than that, like he was laughing at something only he understood. And I heard him walk away. I called the front desk landline number, which was printed on a little card by the phone, at 2:24 a.m. It rang 11 times. Nobody picked up. I don't know if the guy who checked me in was asleep, or in the bathroom, or if there even was anyone actively watching the desk overnight in a place that small. I didn't call 911. And I've asked myself, why not more times than I can? A knock, a doorknob turn, a weird laugh. None of it sounds like much when you list it out like that. It's the accumulation of it, the tone of it, that made it feel like something was deeply wrong. I don't know how to explain that to someone who wasn't there. I stayed up the rest of the night with the lamp on and the TV on low, watching the water rights segment loop into infomercials into a rerun of some crime procedural that I could not have told you a single plot detail of afterward. At 5:50 a.m., with the sky just starting to go gray outside the curtain gap, I packed my bag as fast as I could, checked the parking lot 3 times through the window, and made a run for my car. The dark sedan was back, parked crooked in front of room 11. No one in it that I could see. I didn't stop to check. I threw my bag in the passenger seat, got in, locked the doors, and pulled out of that lot faster than I've ever driven a parking lot in my life. I drove straight through to Mammoth Lakes without stopping, and then I actually just kept going past Mammoth, back down 395 the way I'd never planned to go because I did not want to spend another night anywhere near Bishop. I called Priya from a gas station in Lone Pine, shaking, and she was the one who suggested I file a report, which I eventually did with the Inyo County Sheriff's Substation, over the phone, a few days later once I was calmer. The deputy I spoke with was polite, but I could tell there wasn't much they could do with what I had. No license plate number, no clear description beyond average height, dark jacket, no crime actually committed, technically, since he never got in. Here's the detail that still bothers me, the one I never got an answer to. When I checked out, well, I didn't check out, I just left. But I called the motel a week later from home, Once I felt safer and asked the same front desk guy, calm as I could manage, whether there'd been any other guests reported acting strange that night, room 11 specifically. He got quiet for a second, and then he said, "Room 11's been empty for months. Honorable." I never found out who or why it was parked in front of a room that supposedly wasn't rented, or who knocked on my door at midnight claiming to be housekeeping when there was no housekeeping that late, or why he laughed like that when the door didn't open. I looked up local news for Bishop and Inyo County for weeks after, half dreading, half needing to find some story that would explain it. A missing woman, a prowler arrest, anything, and found nothing. Just silence, the same way the Motel's one online review offered nothing but silence. I still travel alone sometimes. I haven't let it stop me completely, but I don't stay in small independent motels anymore, not without someone else with me. And I always ask for a room near the front office now, close to people, close to light. And sometimes, when I'm in a hotel room anywhere and I hear the ice machine down the hall click on, that low mechanical hum and rattle, I go still for a second before I can stop myself, waiting to hear if the footsteps that follow it are going to keep walking past my door or stop. Story 2. The rideshare pickup outside Terminal B, Nashville International Airport. I want to start by saying I've done hundreds of Uber and Lyft rides as a passenger, alone, at all hours, in probably a dozen different cities, and nothing had ever made me nervous before this. I'm telling you that so you understand I'm not someone who spooks easily. I grew up in Chicago. I've lived in cities my whole adult life. I know the general rules. Sit behind the driver, share your trip status, don't get in if the plate doesn't match. I did all of that, and it still didn't matter. My name's Marcus. I was 31 at the time, working as a field auditor for an insurance company, which meant I traveled constantly, different city practically every other week, living out of a rolling suitcase and a garment bag. Nashville was just another stop on the circuit in October of 2024. I'd been there before, actually, twice, for audits at a claims office out near Cool Springs. Nothing about the city itself had ever bothered me. I liked it, honestly. Good food, friendly people. My flight landed at BNA a little after 10:30 p.m., delayed from an original 8:50 arrival because of weather rolling through Atlanta where I'd connected. By the time I got through the terminal, grabbed my check bag, I checked one that trip because I had audit binders that wouldn't fit in a Cia RRY on. It was close to 11:15. I remember being tired in that specific travel day way, shirt slightly damp from rushing through the Atlanta layover, throat dry from recycled airplane air. I just wanted to get to my hotel, a Hampton Inn off Elm Hill Pike, and go to sleep. I ordered the rideshare from the app while I was still walking through baggage claim, requested pickup at the ground transportation area outside Terminal B, which is standard for BNA. 89 rating, all completely normal. I didn't think twice. I want to walk through the small stuff, because at the time, none of it seemed important. And it's only looking back that I realize how many little things were slightly off before anything actually happened. First thing, when I got to the pickup zone, there were maybe 6 or 7 cars in that little chaotic loop where everyone's trying to match their app screen to a windshield, and I saw a silver Camry idling near the far end, past where most people were clustering. I walked toward it, checked the plate against my phone. It matched, 4J1, and the driver rolled down the passenger window instead of unlocking the doors right away. I said yes, and he unlocked the doors. That pause bothered me a little in the moment, but I told myself he was probably just double-checking, being cautious, which is actually what you're supposed to do. I got in the back seat, put my suitcase and garment bag on the seat beside me, since the trunk looked full of what I assumed was his own stuff. A duffel bag, a couple of grocery totes. The car smelled like a pine air freshener, the little tree kind, mixed with something underneath it I couldn't place. Not bad exactly, just present, like cardboard or damp fabric. The radio was on low, some classic rock station, and there was a phone mount on the dash with a second phone in it, screen dark, which struck me as slightly odd only because most drivers I've had use one phone for navigation, and that's it. 2 phones felt like a small detail that didn't need to be there. He confirmed the hotel address, pulled out of the airport loop, and for the first 10 minutes or so, it was a totally normal ride. He asked what brought me to Nashville. I said work. He said something about how much traffic construction there'd been near the airport lately because of some expansion project. I made a non-committal, "Yeah, I've heard" comment. Standard small talk. I actually started to relax, pulled my phone out to check emails, half paying attention to the road. It was around 11:35 p.m., according to the trip timestamp I still have saved, when I noticed we weren't on the route the app was showing. I glanced up at his phone mount. His navigation app was open, blue line showing the correct route toward Elm Hill Pike. But we just passed the turn it was telling him to take. I figured he knew a shortcut. Drivers do that all the time. The app, except it didn't reroute. The blue line just sort of hung there, disconnected from where we actually were, like the app was still calculating. We kept driving straight on a road that was getting progressively less lit, fewer businesses, more of that in-between stretch you get on the edges of any city, storage unit complexes, a closed tire shop, a stretch of trees. "Hey, I think we might have missed the turn back there," I said, trying to keep my voice easy, casual. He didn't answer right away, just kept driving, hands at 10 and 2, eyes on the road. Then he said, "Shortcut." Which, fine, that's a normal thing to say, except I looked down at my own phone's map. I'd pulled up my own separate Maps app out of habit, not even suspicious yet, just wanting to see the ETA. And the blue dot representing us was moving further away from the hotel, not closer. We were heading northeast when the hotel was southwest of the airport. I said something like, "This doesn't look right, man. My map's showing us going the wrong way." And I tried to keep it light, but I could hear my own voice tighten a little. He glanced at me in the rearview mirror. It's a strange thing to try to describe, being looked at through a rearview mirror by someone you can't fully see and who can see all of you. His eyes stayed on mine for maybe 2 full seconds, which in a moving car at night is a genuinely uncomfortable length of time. Then he looked back at the road and said, "It's fine. Trust me." From a rideshare driver I'd known for 11 minutes. That's the phrase that did it for me. Something about the specific wording, the flatness of it, made every hair on my arm stand up. I did the things you're supposed to do. I remember my thumbs shaking a little typing it out, autocorrect turning somethings into somethings, which she later told me was almost funny in how it clashed with how panicked the message actually read. She called me almost immediately. I read off a street sign as we passed it. Brick Church Pike, which, if you know Nashville, is genuinely nowhere near Elm Hill Pike, nowhere near the direction of my hotel at all. Renata, on the other end, her voice changed, just slightly. The way someone's voice changes when they're trying very hard not to sound scared, so you don't get more scared. She said, Okay, I'm calling it in." I don't know if the driver could hear her voice through the phone, tinny as it probably was, but something shifted in the car right around then. He sped up. Not dramatically, not swerving, just the needle crept up, 40 to 50 to nearly 60 on a road that had a 35 posted limit that I'd seen a mile back. My stomach dropped in a way I can only describe as physically nauseating, that specific plummet. "Hey, slow down," I said, and I heard my own voice crack on it. "Almost there," he said, which made no sense. We weren't almost anywhere. We were in the opposite direction of anywhere I needed to be. This is the part where I remember every single detail with perfect clarity, because adrenaline does something to memory. Smooths some parts out and burns other parts, and so vividly, it's like they happened 5 minutes ago. What I remember clearly, I grabbed the door handle. I know now that a lot of rideshare vehicles have child lock style rear doors that can be manually disabled from the driver's controls, and I remember pulling that handle and feeling it give slightly but not open, that specific dead, useless click of a locked door handle, and a wave of panic that I have never felt before or since. "Let me out," I said, louder now, done with keeping calm. He didn't respond to that at all, just kept driving, jaw tight, eyes forward, like I hadn't said anything. Renata was still on the phone, and I could hear her talking to someone else, a second voice, and I understood distantly that she'd gotten through to 911 or was on another line with them. At 11:52 p.m., a car came up fast behind us. Headlights filling the back window, then a brief flash of blue and red that I caught in reflection off the rearview mirror before I even fully processed what it was. A Metro Nashville police cruiser. Lights on, no siren yet, just pacing us. The driver's whole demeanor changed instantly. He slowed down, smoothly, like flipping a switch, and pulled over onto the shoulder, calm as anything, like none of the last 20 minutes had happened. I don't know exactly what he meant by that. I've never known. I didn't answer him. The officer approached on the passenger side with a flashlight, and I have never been so relieved to see a stranger's face in my life. What followed was about 45 minutes of me standing on the shoulder of Brick Church Pike in October night air that had gone properly cold, giving a statement while 2 officers talked to the driver separately, off to the side, by his own car. I couldn't hear what was said. I found out afterward, filing a follow-up report the next day at the East Precinct, that the driver's actual license didn't fully match the rideshare account. The account had been active under the name Aaron for about 5 months, but the man driving had a different legal name, and there was some kind of discrepancy the officers flagged that I was never given full detail on, something about the account possibly being registered under someone else's identity. I gave a statement, filled out paperwork, and the rideshare company, I did file a complaint with them too, deactivated the account within a day, sent me a boilerplate email about taking safety seriously, offered a refund for the ride I never got to. I never found out his real name. I never found out why he took that route, what almost there meant, where we actually would have ended up if that cruiser hadn't happened to be on that stretch of road at that exact time. And I do mean happened to be. It wasn't dispatched for me specifically, not until Renata's call went through, which by my best estimate crossed paths with the officer already patrolling that corridor purely by chance. I asked the officer who processed my report if they'd found anything else on the guy, prior complaints, anything, and he told me, kindly enough, that he couldn't share details of an ongoing matter with me. I never got a call back. I checked local Nashville news for weeks afterward, the way I imagine anyone would, looking for some resolution, an arrest report, anything with a name attached, and found nothing that I could definitively connect to that night. I did eventually make it to my hotel, close to 1 a.m., dropped off by the second lift I've ever been more nervous getting into in my life, driven by a woman named Carla who could clearly tell something had happened to me by how tightly I was holding my suitcase and didn't ask, just made small talk about the Titans game, which I will always appreciate her for. I still fly for work. I still use rideshares, more carefully now. I always sit up front now, actually, which I know goes against the sit behind the driver advice, but I want to be able to see the door handle, see the driver's hands, see what's happening. I checked the plate 3 times. I share my trip every single time now, no exceptions, and I stay on the phone with someone until I'm inside wherever I'm going. The detail that's still one I've never resolved. About 2 weeks after it happened, I got a notification that my old rideshare account, the one I've used for years, had a new device login flagged from an unfamiliar location somewhere in Tennessee, a few days after the incident, after the driver's account had already been deactivated. I changed my password immediately, enabled 2-factor, and the rideshare company's support team told me it was likely just a cached session and nothing to worry about. I want to believe that. I've mostly convinced myself of it. But every so often, usually late at night in some other city, waiting for a car to pull up to a curb, I think about that login, and I think about him turning around in his seat to look at me and saying, "You didn't have to do that," like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Story 3. Rental near Sedona, Arizona. I've told this story to maybe 5 people total since it happened, and every single time I get to a certain point, I watch their face change. That little shift where they go from listening politely to actually leaning forward. I don't know if that means they believe me, or if it just means the story's good. I'm honestly not sure which one I prefer. My name's Kayla. In March of 2025, I was 29, working remote as a UX designer for a software company based out of Austin, which meant I had the kind of flexible schedule that let me do something I'd wanted to do for a while. A solo workcation, a week by myself, somewhere quiet, still logging into my laptop for meetings, but otherwise just decompressing. I picked the area outside Sedona, Arizona, specifically a stretch off Oak Creek Canyon, up Highway 89A, north of the main touristy strip with all the crystal shops and Jeep tour companies. I wanted somewhere more remote, more in nature. And I found a cabin listed on a vacation rental site, tucked into a wooded area maybe 15 minutes off the highway on a gravel road, no other houses visible from the property. The listing had gorgeous photos, red rock visible through the trees, a little creek nearby, a wraparound porch. I remember that review specifically because it's part of why I booked it. I drove up from Phoenix, where I had flown in on a Tuesday afternoon in early March, arriving a little before 5 p.m. while there was still good light. The host, a woman I'd only ever communicated with through the app's messaging system, never a phone call, which in hindsight feels like it should have registered as odd but didn't at the time. Plenty of hosts prefer messaging, had sent me a lockbox code for the front door and instructions to text her when I arrived, which I did. The cabin itself was exactly like the photos, maybe even nicer. Wood paneling, a stone fireplace, a kitchenette, a loft bedroom up a narrow staircase. It smelled like cedar and, faintly, like someone had recently used cleaning products, that slightly chemical lemon smell under the wood smell. I unpacked a small dining table by the window that looked out at the trees and spent the first evening just enjoying it. Cooked myself pasta, had a glass of wine, watched the light change on the rocks through the window as the sun went down around 6:45. I want to be clear that the first 2 days were genuinely wonderful. I got work done in the mornings, hiked in the afternoons. There's a trailhead you can access from a service road not far from the cabin. And in the evenings, I just sat on the porch with a blanket, watching the sky do that deep orange to purple thing you get in that part of Arizona. I texted my sister Jenna pictures of the sunset both nights. I felt genuinely more relaxed than I had in months. The first thing that felt off happened on the third night, a Thursday, around 9:30 p.m. I was in the loft in bed reading on my phone when I heard something outside that sounded like footsteps on gravel. Slow, deliberate, not the quick scattering sound an animal makes. I sat up, turned off my phone screen so the room went dark, and listened. The footsteps stopped somewhere near what I guessed was the side of the cabin, close to the kitchen window. I told myself it was a deer or an elk. I'd read that elk are common in that area, and after a minute or two of silence, I mostly convinced myself of it and went back to my book, though I kept the lamp on longer than I normally would have. The second off moment came the next morning. I went out to the porch with my coffee around 8 a.m. and noticed the doormat, a plain core mat that had been centered under the front door when I arrived, was shifted, pushed a few inches to the side, at an angle. Small thing. Could have been wind, though it hadn't been particularly windy. I remember standing there a second too long, staring at it, before deciding I was being paranoid and going back inside. That afternoon I had a work call, a 2-hour user research session I needed quiet for, and afterward, drained from screen time, I decided to skip my usual hike and just relax on the porch instead. Around 4 p.m., my laptop closed and a book open on my lap that I wasn't really reading, I noticed a car, a white pickup truck, older model, with a toolbox mounted in the bed, drive slowly past the end of the gravel driveway, visible through a gap in the trees maybe 80 yards off. It didn't turn in, it just slowed, noticeably, and then continued on. I didn't think much of it in the moment. People drive slow on unfamiliar gravel roads. But it happened again around 5:40, same truck as far as I could tell, same slow pass. And this time, I stood up and moved closer to the porch railing to watch it go, feeling the first real prick of unease settle into my stomach. I texted my host that evening, casual, trying not to sound alarmist. "Hey, random question. Is there a neighbor nearby with a white pickup?" She responded about 20 minutes later. I remember the delay because I kept checking my phone, with probably just the property maintenance guy, he checks the road sometimes. The exclamation point felt strange to me, too cheerful for the question I'd asked, but I told myself I was reading into things. That night, Friday, my 4th night there, is the one I still have trouble talking about cleanly, because so much of it happened in a kind of adrenaline blur that doesn't sit in my memory the way normal events do. Around 11:20 p.m., I was in the loft, lights off, trying to fall asleep, when I heard the same slow gravel footsteps from 2 nights before, except this time they didn't stay near the kitchen window. They moved, around the side of the cabin, toward the front, pausing every so often in a way that made my skin crawl, not the rhythm of walking to somewhere, but the rhythm of someone circling, looking. She called me almost instantly, and I answered on the first ring, whispering, telling her what I was hearing. "Do you have a lock on the door?" she asked, and I told her yes. The front door was dead-bolted. I checked it myself before bed, like I did every night there. Then I heard it, downstairs, turning. Not a knock, not a call-out, just the specific metallic sound of someone testing whether a door was locked, the same way, and I didn't make this connection until much later, but I want to include it because it's true, the same way that motel door handles sounded when a friend of mine described something similar happening to her the year before in California. A story I'd actually heard from her before my own trip and half dismissed as a fluke. The knob turned, caught on the deadbolt, stopped. I sat frozen at the top of the loft stairs. Phone pressed to my ear. Jenna's voice on the other end saying my name, asking what was happening. And I couldn't answer her for a solid 10 seconds because my throat had just locked up entirely. Then, quietly, from downstairs, right at the door, a voice. Male, calm, almost bored sounding. I didn't answer. Jenna, hearing this through the phone, started talking fast, telling me to stay upstairs, stay quiet, that she was calling the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office right then on her other line, that I needed to find something, anything to defend myself with if the door gave. I remember grabbing a heavy flashlight off the nightstand, the only thing within reach that felt like it had any weight to it, and just holding it, sitting on the top step of the loft stairs, staring down at the front door through the dark. The knob turned again, held there a moment, then let go. Footsteps moved away from the door, around toward the side of the cabin again, toward the kitchen window this time, and I heard something that took me a moment to place. A scraping sound, metal on wood, slow and deliberate. I understood with a fresh drop of pure fear that whoever it was checking that window too, running something. A screwdriver, a knife, I never found out what, along the frame. I stayed on that step for what Jenna later told me was almost 40 minutes, though it felt like hours. Phone against my ear the whole time. Her voice the only thing keeping me tethered to something normal, while I listened to slow, patient footsteps circle my cabin twice more, pausing at windows, pausing at the back door I hadn't even thought to check, before finally, around 12:15 a.m., going quiet. I didn't hear a car start. I didn't hear the truck. I never saw headlights pull away down that gravel driveway. The footsteps just stopped, and the night went silent in that specific ringing way silence gets after you've been straining to hear every possible sound for the better part of an hour. A Yavapai County deputy arrived around 1:05 a.m., a long response time that made total sense once I understood how remote the property actually was, a fact that had seemed charming 4 days earlier and now felt like the worst possible detail. He did a walk of the property with a flashlight, found nothing. No truck, no person, though he did note, and wrote in his report, fresh footprints in the softer dirt near the kitchen window that didn't match my own shoe size, and scrape marks on the window frame consistent with someone attempting, unsuccessfully, to pry. He stayed until almost 2 a.m., walked the tree line, checked the gravel road for tire tracks. There were some, he said, but nothing conclusive. No plate, no clear tread pattern he could use. I didn't sleep at all that night. At first light, I packed everything in about 15 minutes and left, cutting my trip 2 days short, driving straight to a Hampton Inn back in the main part of Sedona, where there were other people, other lit windows, a front desk with someone awake behind it. I filed a full report the next day, and a deputy followed up with me a week later, once I was back home in Austin, to tell me that the maintenance guy my host had mentioned, a real person, it turned out, who did occasionally check the property, had a verified alibi for that night, was nowhere near the cabin, which meant scraping at the window was someone else entirely, someone who was never identified. The white pickup truck was never traced to an owner connected to the case in any way that was shared with me. I messaged my host afterward, upset, asking directly if anything like this had happened to previous guests. She apologized, said she was horrified, said nothing like that had ever been reported to her before, and for what it's worth, I believe she was telling the truth, or at least believe she was. None of them said anything explicit. Nothing that would have stopped me from booking if I'd read them beforehand, which I had, and skimmed right past. But taken together, after what happened to me, they read differently. They read like other women had felt some version of what I felt, and hadn't had the full story to compare it to either, the same way I didn't until it was almost too late. The listing is still up, as of the last time I checked a few months ago. Still has good reviews. I've thought more than once about writing my own, laying out exactly what happened, and I still haven't done it, and I genuinely don't fully know why. Maybe because without an arrest, without a name, without any real resolution, it feels like accusing the dark of something, and I'm not sure what good it does. I still don't know who was outside that cabin, or what they wanted, or whether the white pickup truck had anything to do with it at all, or if it was some strange coincidence layered on top of an actual threat. I don't know why the footsteps left without a car sound on a gravel road in the middle of nowhere, unless they parked somewhere further off and walked in, which is its own unsettling thought that someone planned it out that carefully. I think about that detail more than almost anything else from that week. Somebody chose to leave their vehicle far enough away that I wouldn't hear it. I haven't booked a remote, standalone rental since. I stick to hotels now, chains, places with front desks and cameras in the hallway, and other guests within shouting distance. I still love Sedona. I've been back twice, actually, staying in town both times. But I don't think I'll ever fully shake the sound of that doorknob turning in the dark, catching on the deadbolt, and letting go. If you made it this far, thank you for sitting with me through all 3 of these. I know how these stories go. You tell yourself you'll just watch one, and then somehow it's an hour later and every light in your house is on. What gets me about all 3 of these isn't monsters or anything supernatural. It's how ordinary everything looked right up until it didn't. A motel with 1 review, a rideshare with a matching license plate, a cabin with 12 5-star ratings, nothing that would have made any of us think twice. That's the part that stays with me after researching stories like this. How thin the line actually is between a normal trip and one of these. None of these 3 women or Marcus ever got a clean answer. No name, no arrest they were told about, no real explanation for the doorknob, the detour, the footsteps that just stopped. And I think that's honestly more true to how most of these situations actually end in real life. Not with a tidy resolution, just with somebody who got out and who's still turning it over in their head years later, waiting for a piece that never comes. If you've got your own travel story, something that happened to you, or to someone you know that still doesn't sit right, drop it in the comments. I read every single one, and a lot of the stories on this channel started exactly that way. Lock your doors tonight, share your trip status, trust that feeling in your stomach before you trust the explanation your brain hands you to make it go away. I'll see you in the next one.